Intel's decline in the age of the US-China trade war. Intel's recent struggles to maintain its position as a leader in the semiconductor industry are a consequence of both internal challenges and external pressures. Over the past few decades, Intel has transformed from a near monopoly in personal computer (PC) processors to a company grappling with intensified competition from international rivals like TSMC and Samsung and US-based companies like AMD. The ongoing US-China trade war and subsequent tariffs have introduced additional obstacles, with the US government imposing restrictions on exports of technology to China, including some of Intel's products. This environment of heightened trade tensions and geopolitical shifts has altered the global semiconductor landscape, impacting Intel's revenue streams, growth potential, and innovation capabilities. Intel's rise to dominance, the golden years. Founded in 1968, Intel became a dominant force in the technology sector by pioneering advancements in semiconductor manufacturing and CPU, central processing unit design. Intel's x86 processors set the industry standard for personal computers, allowing it to capture a substantial market share throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Intel's early leadership in PC processors, coupled with a powerful research and development (R&D) budget, positioned the company as a core player in computing technology. The company's flagship Pentium processors became synonymous with high-performance computing and contributed to Intel's brand as a leader in innovation. For decades, Intel capitalized on the PC boom, enjoying robust sales and securing lucrative contracts with major computer manufacturers. Its dominance continued through the 2000s as Intel expanded its portfolio, making strides in areas like data centers and server processors. By the early 2010s, however, the industry began to change with the rise of mobile devices, artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning, ML, technologies that required a shift toward more efficient, high-performance chips. While Intel initially enjoyed strong growth and profitability, it began to face hurdles in keeping up with Moore's law, the principle predicting the doubling of transistors on a chip every 2 years. The rise of competitors, TSMC, Samsung, and AMD. The semiconductor industry saw the rapid rise of international players, particularly Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, and Samsung Electronics, as Intel faced delays in advancing its manufacturing processes. TSMC and Samsung invested heavily in semiconductor manufacturing, focusing on 7nm and 5nm nodes, essential advancements for creating smaller, more powerful, and energy-efficient chips. TSMC, in particular, forged partnerships with Intel's key competitors, including AMD and Apple, providing them with advanced manufacturing capabilities and allowing them to capture market share. By the mid-2010s, AMD began to re-establish itself in the CPU market by leveraging TSMC's advanced manufacturing processes. AMD's Ryzen series of processors outperformed Intel's offerings in many segments, notably gaming and high-performance computing. This shift was a wake-up call for Intel, which found itself increasingly isolated as AMD gained ground not only in consumer markets but also in data centers and servers, areas Intel once dominated. Intel's delayed transition to 10nm and then 7nm nodes allowed AMD and TSMC to attract consumers seeking high efficiency and performance, effectively eroding Intel's market share. The US-China trade war and Intel's reliance on the Chinese market. The impact of the US-China trade war on Intel cannot be understated, as the company's business model relies heavily on international markets. The trade tensions between the United States and China escalated in 2018 when the Trump administration implemented tariffs on billions of dollars of Chinese goods. The goal was to pressure China on trade practices, intellectual property protections, and market access. Over time, these tariffs expanded to cover a wide range of industries, including technology products critical to China's economic development. China is not just any market for Intel. It represents a vital part of the global semiconductor landscape. According to the Semiconductor Industry Association, SIA, China accounts for approximately 36% of global semiconductor consumption making it one of the largest markets for advanced technology. Intel's revenue figures reflect this dependency. In 2020, approximately 25% of Intel's revenue came from sales to China, a major source of growth for the company's data center, consumer, and enterprise segments. The imposition of export controls has significantly curtailed Intel's access to this essential market, especially as restrictions were placed on sales to key clients like Huawei and other Chinese technology firms. These restrictions directly impacted Intel's sales and provided an opportunity for Chinese companies to accelerate efforts towards self-sufficiency. With restricted access to critical semiconductors, Chinese companies began to invest in domestic semiconductor capabilities, posing a long-term competitive threat to Intel. Export controls and tariffs. The hit to Intel's bottom line. Intel's financial performance has been negatively impacted by restrictions on its ability to sell high-performance processors to Chinese firms. These export controls prohibit the sale of certain advanced processors and other components to Chinese companies deemed potential national security risks by the US government. This limitation has forced Intel to forfeit lucrative deals with companies that once relied on its products, which are integral to various sectors, including telecommunications, data centers, and artificial intelligence. A 2022 report from the Semiconductor Industry Association highlighted that US semiconductor companies are estimated to lose over $50 billion in revenue by 2025 due to export restrictions. For Intel, losing key Chinese customers has weakened its competitive position, as these lost sales translate into lower revenue, reduced R&D budgets, and a subsequent slowdown in technological advancements. Intel's revenue for 2022 showed a 16% decline year-over-year, with its data center and artificial intelligence divisions hit particularly hard. This financial decline reflects the broader challenges Intel faces in adjusting to a market increasingly shaped by US-imposed restrictions. Real-time data. Intel's sliding market share and investor confidence. The impact of these export restrictions is further reflected in Intel's declining market position. Intel's share of the global semiconductor market has steadily decreased from 15.6% in 2016 to approximately 9.7% in 2022. During the same period, TSMC and Samsung have captured increasing shares of the market, benefiting from unrestricted access to global markets, including China. Meanwhile, AMD and Nvidia have emerged as formidable competitors, with Nvidia overtaking Intel in market capitalization in 2020, a milestone that underscored shifting investor sentiment. Intel's stock price, which was once considered a safe investment in the tech sector, has struggled amid these challenges. As of the latest financial data, Intel's stock has underperformed relative to its peers, reflecting concerns among investors about its ability to recover lost ground. According to Morningstar, Intel's stock price has declined over 30% since 2018, indicating waning confidence in its capacity to compete in a highly dynamic market dominated by firms with advanced manufacturing capabilities. Academic perspectives on trade restrictions and technological competitiveness. Academic research reinforces the view that trade restrictions and export controls on technology can undermine a country's technological competitiveness. A study published in the Journal of Economic Perspectives found that export restrictions often disrupt the R&D investment cycle, as companies lose revenue and are subsequently forced to scale back their innovation efforts. This phenomenon is particularly relevant in the semiconductor industry, where high levels of capital expenditure, CapEx, and R&D investment are essential for technological advancement. Intel's case aligns with findings from another study by the Brookings Institution, which analyzed how access to large markets, particularly in emerging economies, is critical for sustaining technological innovation. With its access to the Chinese market curtailed, Intel faces challenges in maintaining the same level of R&D investment as competitors like TSMC and Samsung, which continue to operate in China without comparable restrictions. Strategic shifts in the global semiconductor industry. In response to US trade restrictions, Chinese companies have accelerated efforts to develop domestic semiconductor capabilities. Companies like SMIC, Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation, have advanced their manufacturing technologies, receiving government support to reduce dependency on foreign semiconductors. Under China's Made in China 2025 initiative, substantial resources have been allocated to creating a self-sustained semiconductor industry, posing a long-term competitive threat to Intel and other US semiconductor companies. As China's domestic semiconductor industry grows, Intel risks losing further market share, not only in China but globally, as Chinese companies continue to develop competitive technologies. For example, Huawei, once a significant customer of Intel's processors, has reportedly increased investment in R&D and aims to produce proprietary chips that rival Intel's capabilities. These developments could permanently alter Intel's global standing as China's semiconductor sector gains independence and competitiveness. Broader implications for the US technology sector. Intel's struggles under the US-China trade war reflect a broader trend that may have profound implications for other US industries dependent on global markets. The semiconductor industry is not unique in its reliance on integrated supply chains and diverse consumer bases. Automotive manufacturers, consumer electronics firms, and aerospace companies similarly depend on open access to international markets, especially China. As the US-China trade war intensifies, other American companies may face similar disruptions, potentially leading to job losses, lower revenues, and diminished competitiveness. The economic cost of trade wars and protectionist policies. Economic research increasingly suggests that trade wars and protectionist policies have adverse effects on domestic industries by disrupting established supply chains and increasing production costs. For example, the National Bureau of Economic Research, NBER, reported that tariffs and export restrictions can lead to increased costs for consumers and decreased efficiency in manufacturing. This is particularly true for industries that rely on foreign components, as higher tariffs can drive up the cost of raw materials and intermediate goods. Intel's decline exemplifies the challenges American companies face in a global economy marked by escalating trade conflicts. The combined impact of lost market access, increased global competition, and technological stagnation due to restricted revenue streams has weakened Intel's ability to remain competitive. As trade tensions continue, Intel's situation serves as a cautionary tale for other US industries, highlighting the risks of relying on restrictive policies that undermine the principles of open market access and global trade.